I've been having to pee for about the past hour, so I'm keeping everything real tight bound up.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Alien Familiar RPG Podcast. I am Clayton.
I'm Jordan.
Kyle Perkins.
KD.
And I'm Haley.
And before we get started, I just want to remind our listeners that you can find show notes and more at alienfamiliar.com. You can email us at alienfamiliarmedia@gmail.com, and we are on Facebook at facebook.com/alienfamiliar. And I also want to let all of our listeners, all the teeming masses of them, know that beginning with the next episode, we will be switching to a release schedule of every other week. So next week, we will not have an episode released. Our next episode will be in 2 weeks.
We're all very sorry to both of you.
If you miss the podcast, you should just email us some ideas, thoughts. You could actually mail us some, like, hair.
I am making a wig.
I'm not associated with any of these people, frankly. I've actually been held here against my will.
Shut up.
I love it here.
We'll put you back in the crawl space.
It's creepy down there. It really is.
And our topic for today is creating and running one-shots. And I believe everybody here has run a one-shot at least once. So we'll be providing some of our insights into them. I want to kind of break this episode down into 3 sections: pre-game prep, crafting the story and the encounters, and then actually running the game. And as part of running the game, I also want to talk specifically about what players can do in a one-shot, because in a lot of ways, a one-shot is a completely different animal than running a campaign, and it takes a different mentality in creating the game, but also in playing in the game. In order to get the thing done in the time frame that you've got. One of the most important pieces of information to know, even before you begin writing and designing designing your one shot, is knowing how long it's going to last. Whether you've got 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, it's going to determine how much actual information and how much story and gameplay you can get. And having a good idea of how much time you have allows you to basically design how much time it's going to take you to get through everything that you're going to plan. Another thing that I like to look at is whether to do pre-generated characters or character creation at the start of the game. A lot of that is going to be determined by the fact of how long the session is. If you've got a short session, I don't think you should ever do character creation at the beginning of the session. Always go with pre-generated characters.
I want to actually backpedal a little bit and ask, in your average experience, how long of one-shots do most of us play?
Usually it's 4 hours for me.
It's usually 4
to
6 on the longest end. Never any longer in my experience. I know some people do their, 10-hour all Saturday long gaming sessions.
Me.
I'm never fortunate enough to have that kind of time. But so you said 5 was your average, Kyle?
Well, I'm trying to think. In terms of games I've run, I want to say maybe like I shoot for 4 to 5, but like KP just played an X-Files one shot I ran, and that probably went a little bit longer, I'd say.
It was towards 6, I think.
Yeah. And then Lara's one shot that we were in was that all-day affair, if you remember that one.
That's true. That was a
really
very
good,
long
though.
one.
We even took a
he
pause.
was in that as well. So, and that was like all day, but with like a 2.5 hour break in between, because everybody just had the day off work and stuff. So, I would say on average, I think 5 hours is that's a happy medium. You know, gives you enough time to get everything done you need to get done, but you're also not pushing like 6 hours of gameplay. I don't know. That's a tough one to swing, I think.
Yeah.
But if you're running at a convention, generally those are either 4 hours, 6 hours, or I've seen a couple that are 8 hours.
That's a fair point. Like you have
No, please go.
You have a time constraint there. I'm thinking specifically in a like group of friends sitting down in someone's house or at a game shop for a while playing. And even at a game shop, I guess, if you're running a table. And if it's like a bigger game shop where you have to run a table and it's not just you walk in and get one, I guess that also puts a limit on you. So.
When I ran at Gen Con, I think it was 2 hour blocks. I think you could book less, but I think the typical one for most games that weren't like a big con-long event were about 2 hours.
That's short.
Yeah, I was going to say,
It
how
is
much
real short.
material did you get through in
It's
2 hours?
basically just a demo of a system and not very much. And I mean, when you're planning for a one shot, the very first thing you're going to do is write too much content for the one shot. That's every single time I've ever done it or ever seen anyone try.
Before we get into planning, wait, you said you have all day long affairs, Haley? That's your typical?
Well,
time?
not typical, but the last one shot the longest one shot I ran was roughly around 10 hours. But that was a planned event that we all had. We had a long weekend, and we decided to do a one shot, a session in our campaign, and another one shot to bookend some plot points that we didn't get to cover, to kind of like retcon some things that have been happening in our campaign, and we set aside 10 hours to take care of them. And we did. It went on forever. I was very tired, but it was worth it.
Well, here in a couple months, I'm planning on running a one-shot that's going to be awfully long. It's going to be over 2.5 days.
Yeah, but we're going to live it. Live it!
Yeah.
At our cabin. Our RPG cabin retreat. I think it's interesting that media seems to lead the public to believe that RPG games, D&D games, say, last all day long. They always have the 3 hours later, ha ha ha, time skip.
Mm-hmm.
So, way to live that dream.
Thank you. I love it.
But also in media like that, it's usually kids, teenagers, or like people in their early 20s in college specifically.
Yeah.
And those demographics typically do or can arrange to have an entire day devoted to nothing but that.
Man, that'd be real cool. I miss that.
Was the last time that we were all able to do that, Laura's?
Yeah, I
One
think
shot?
so. We should.
That was
plan
like
some time.
for the audience. I guess that was
Sunless Sea game, and
Yeah.
it was we started in the early afternoon and went until
very late.
the wee hours.
Yeah,
Somehow, I don't know how we had the energy there.
I think we talked about it on one of our early podcasts when we were first starting out.
You might have.
But that was more than a couple months ago. I want to say that was at least half a year. So, anyway.
Yeah, we were still playing in beta.
Well, Laura was here, so
Yeah.
that was more than 6 months ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess to round that back around, all-day affairs, I think, can be a lot of fun, but you really do have to, assuming everyone's free enough in their schedule to do that, you really will do have to schedule in like a break or something, because it's real hard to just RPG for more. I think attention spans time out at 5, at the most you're pushing 6 hours, of just like pretty continuous play.
Mm-hmm. Playing in a con is a little bit different because everybody is there to play, and they have blocked out this time, and they have paid money in order to participate in this
It's
game.
true. Not just the con badge, but they've paid tickets or other con bucks to get into your event to play your game. So they're going to play it.
And stick to your time. If you want to run at a con, I felt real bad the year I played at Dragon Con. One of the slots, I ran like maybe 8 or 10, I can't remember how many sessions that weekend. And one of them, I ran a little over. The group was having a lot of fun. It was a big group in the first time slot. I had one right next to it, and it went probably like 10 minutes over. And a couple of players in the next session were pretty sore about it, and it didn't even occur to me like how packed people's schedules are. So if you commit to a time slot, even if you're in the middle of stuff, sometimes you just got to wrap it up. It's really hard to run on that tight of a schedule. But if you're going to do it, sometimes you just got to pull the plug, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never run at a convention. I guess that's not totally true. I've never had it where it's scheduled in, though, if that makes sense. So, it sounds like everyone here was, running through the con itself.
I've never done that, but
Okay.
a lot.
Or at least Jordan
our
played
Gen
it.
Con
Gaming
vets anyway.
convention.
Hmm?
I've never even been to a gaming convention. That sounds amazing.
You've been to other conventions, though, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Have you ever
yeah.
With
gamed
you.
at a Have you ever gamed at a convention?
I've never
ever
gamed.
rolled the dice?
There- not.
There was a point where I did, set up at a table, just a free table, and
Ran a one shot.
ran a one-shot. that was fine. But then again, everyone just kind of dropped in now. By the end, it was like, I started with like 4 people, and I was down to like, it's down to a one person interaction, and I was like, well, this is really awkward, but here we go.
Intimate. Well, so that brings me back around to the initial question that I just dodged about pre-gen characters versus making characters. Having never ran one at a convention, and the 3 of us at the table have, did you come with pre-gen characters, or did you make?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I was running out of like my old characters, essentially.
Okay, so you had characters that...
Yeah, so I guess pre-gen, but they weren't like pre-gen for the scenario.
Gotcha.
I was just extra like characters I had once played that I had on hand, and
so you were just like gaming with yourself, just masturbating. That's
well,
awesome. That sounds fun.
Other people were playing the characters. It was, I don't know. I don't remember why I ended up doing that. I want to say it was actually probably like, it was that like first or second year I was going to like conventions, and so it was one of those things where I didn't know a whole lot of people. I went to panels and stuff, but I did a lot of downtime, and so I just sat at a table and ran one. But anyway, so I guess I did use pre-gens in that case.
Something that I really appreciate oftentimes when you KP run games is that we use Fate Accelerated, which is a super fast, really mainstreamed way to create characters pretty quick and be like, okay, we got 10 minutes to do this section of character creation, and then like 5 do that. And if you give yourself a period of block time to do quick character making, depending on the system, I think it could work. But I tend to lean towards pre-gen characters when I run, because I'll sit down with my group and say, hey, I want to run a Wild West one-shot. They're like, okay, here are some characters I think I want to play. Cool, I'll make some character sheets, so they already know their characters coming in to the game. And they have a lot of fun. They like the pre-gen characters I make, so it's super easy. It gives me more time to explore the world with them when I play.
If you're trying to show off a system that you've made, or if you're trying to introduce players to a new system, what about the real struggle that can be character creation? If you got pre-gens, how can someone see how that goes in that system?
I avoid character creation at all costs during the slotted time of the game. If it's a one-shot, you're just getting together to do with your friends. That gives me a little bit more leeway, especially if it's a quick system. But even a quick system, I would not do a full-fledged character creation. For instance, Savage Worlds, I create the characters except for the hindrances and an edge. That way, players still have some ability to select some things for their characters, but all the number crunching is already done. You just have a couple of options to choose from.
I agree with Clayton, with the sole exception of if your gaming group just wants to check out a new system to maybe run a longer game later, then part of the thing that you want to find out about the game is what the character creation system is like. But that would be the only one. If you were just going to play with a bunch of people once and be done with it, skip it. It's not worth it.
You could always also run in, like, parts. Like, hey, let's all just grab some food and let's make characters. And then when we're done, we'll start playing our thing. Like, setting aside, like, okay, part 1 of the one-shot. We're gonna make characters. We're gonna make the world together. I know that's something that we tend to do a lot when we're running one-shots, often on the fly. They'll be like, name something that you want a part of the world. So you can do all of that part, the creating part of that, when you're on a break, or take some time apart, so that way you know later that night when you're getting together to play the one-shot, you have all of that prepared and set up.
I think that if you're trying to introduce new people to gaming with your one-shot, you should definitely skip it, though, because that is probably the most intimidating part of role-playing games, is, fill out the 3-page tax form to make a character with a bunch of words that you don't understand.
Yeah, I know. I'm a weird egg where I really enjoy character creation. It helps me get more into stories, but I also understand how that can be extremely overwhelming to people who are new to games, and often one-shots are a great way to get people into games.
But also, to be fair, you've never character created in Eclipse Phase.
I did create a character. I never played them.
I think if I had to teach a bunch of con randos to make an Eclipse Phase character, I don't know what I'd do. I think I'd probably not put my hand through like a meat grinder. That's that's a tough.
Maybe your foot.
Maybe my left hand, since I'm right-handed.
True. My offhand would go through the meat grinder.
I would just go all fucking, like, Howard Hughes from The Aviator by the end of it. Just like, it's the way of the future. It's the way of the future. It's the way of the future. Like, 4 Solm times fucking 6 times 12 sky.
Cringing slightly with each word.
Oh, God. I really hope that some of our Eclipse Phase hate gets back to the developers, because I would love to have them, like, call us. Call us. Call me.
Call us and explain why persuading a fellow PC requires whatever the hell that role was.
Algebra.
Yeah.
Solve for X to you roll diplomacy.
It's interesting that you bring up character creation being intimidating. I'm trying to think back to when I was new, and I think it was. But my most visceral experience with this was trying to get somebody I was dating to make a character. They had always wanted to check out pen and paper RPGs. There were no sessions or games going on at the time, and I wasn't about to do like just some one-on-one role-playing, winky face. But they did want to check it out, and I was like, well, let's make a character. And they got very opposed to that. Mm-hmm. Like, it made them, like, analysis paralysis is a light way of saying it. Like, they just thought, this is really intimidating, like you put it. And to jerk you off a little bit, I ended up using the Apocalyptia online character creator, and that made it real good for them.
Damn.
And also, knowing that they were like an avid people watcher, an appreciator of kooky characters, getting them to first visualize a personality that you might want to play, and then having to break down, okay, well, this personality you mentioned that you think is funny or cool would have these traits and those traits. And rolling this back in, away from my miserable dating life, Haley, enjoying character creation is not weird, but I think character creation in a one-shot can be very weird.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do it because you like it or for any other reason, in my opinion, you should have, as I just mentioned, at the very least, some archetypes to play, and then allow a little bit of customization, like you said, Clayton.
That's fine.
Or come to the table with something to ease that intimidation factor. Don't just say, all right, we're here, we just got together, we got 6 hours. Here are your blank sheets, here are your pencils. I'm going to pull up the PDF on my laptop, and I have another laptop over here. Everyone take about an hour and a half to make your characters. It's not fun. It's not fun.
I don't know. I've always I actually don't like making characters in long-running campaigns, but I like making characters in one-shots. And that's not to say that I don't enjoy the characters that I play in long-running campaigns. I definitely do. It's more of a struggle for me to really settle on what I want that character to be, like, mechanically. But for a one-shot, I just can go wild and do whatever I want, and if it doesn't work, that's fine, because it's a one-shot. And I've always tried to, like, if my players are new, and even if they're not new, I always try to, like, impart that mentality on them when they're making characters for a one-shot, that, like, just do whatever you want, man. Like, it's not gonna matter in the long run. Like, if you want to play a wacky, fun character, like, now's the time, I guess, is sort of that mentality. Because you don't have to worry about, like, oh god, like, 6 sessions from now, is my build gonna be viable, or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's alright.
Or, like, is their personality gonna still work with the party?
Yeah. It's alright for stuff like Fate Accelerated, where you, like, fill in 3 lines to describe your character, and that's pretty much the game system, that kind of stuff. But, I mean, if you want to scare some new people away from role-playing games, you give them some equations to do before they even get to play the game. Most people will run screaming.
And if they haven't run screaming by that point, by the time that character creation is over, they probably will when the game starts and the game master says, okay, explain your motivations for your characters. Why are you a group? Why are you doing this mission? Why? Because the game master can't. I mean, it's just as difficult for the game master to come up with a reason why everyone is there when they literally just popped into existence 5 minutes ago. That's one of the benefits of having pre-generated characters, is because then you have control over those characters' backstories, and you can put in points that are important to the game and put in interconnections between the characters, giving the the characters the impetus to work together, to be a group. They don't even necessarily have to be a group at the start, just that, okay, these two players know each other, and these two players know each other, and also there's another connection between the first player and the last player, so that you can get everybody involved in the story without having to do the very uncomfortable, introduce your character and why your character's here.
My name's Magnar the Bold. I really like to lick plastic bags. Who was that? That was weird. So
I want to meet him.
That is a great segue into KP's 5-step one-shot planning fail-safe program, 3 easy payments, $19.99. I don't have to do that, Clayton, but I have that. I got that.
Wait, they don't have to make the payments in $19.99?
Oh, no, they pay me.
Okay.
Do you actually have 5 steps?
I do.
All right, let's hear them.
Yeah.
Okay, alright. So...
Oh, are you getting on a PowerPoint?
Well, yeah, I actually prefer Prezzies.
I love Prezzies.
All right, so my 5-step program, and this really is a decent segue, because stage 1 is mingle. So when you have a group, you need to have either you two know each other, you two have adventured together, you two are some kind of background. Yes.
I want to say, is this as part of running the game, because that's the last part that we're going to talk about. We're still talking about pre-game prep.
Oh, well, no. This does have I'm not going to go through don't worry, I'm not going to go through the whole 5-step program. But stage 1 is important because it's mingle. And when you want your players to mingle, when you're trying to get them to get over that awkward, we're a random group put together and Ragnar the Red likes to lick plastic bags.
I thought it was the bold.
He can do what he wants. Stop judging him.
You can be bold and red. Look at new Doritos, bold and red.
Was that like Transylvania?
Yeah, Transylvanian Doritos, Kyle.
Count Chocula?
You either need those backgrounds in place, and that's something that is during the creation of the one-shot by the DM, pre-game prep. Or I think you need to give your players either like ranks or maybe roles is better.
Rolls spelled R-O-L-E-S.
If you're gonna slap out some warm buttered rolls, bro, like that's awesome. I'd eat those any day. Cheddar Bay biscuits are my jam.
That's how you draw in
But
people for the
I
one
do
shot.
mean ROLES. When I did the Mars one shot, I had distinct roles in mind. I let people choose. It was a first come, first serve thing. People who are on time really got to choose first, and that was cool because they were rewarded for getting there on time. And it just gives people a reason to be there and work together. And it makes your job of designing the campaign so much easier because all right, I am building in this much mingle time, and I know it's not going to be an awkward flop because people will know, oh, I want to talk about the ship's systems. I'm going to go to the tech. Oh, I want to talk about religion. I'm going to go to the paladin or the cleric. They know what to do during the mingle time, and it makes your job of creating things easier, and kind of that stage can almost autopilot if you have roles, reasons to be there, gives your players a chance to meet up and chat and get comfy with each other. It's a good time. That's step
having
1.
well-defined roles also makes playing much more fun. There's an immediate place for them to plug in, and you don't have somebody who's designed some, really great interior decorator who's just going to be completely useless for the whole fucking session.
Nobody has fun if that happens. That sucks.
Mm-hmm. What's step 2?
Well, if we're sticking with prep, I was just going to go over step 1. I think that I can kind of talk about the meta of the 5-step process in prep. So the overall flow of things when you're prepping a one-shot, in my opinion, stage 1 is mangle. Stage 2 is the initial encounter. That could be combat. That could be some hot and heavy communication. Stage 3 is investigate that encounter, then acquire more equipment or knowledge to deal with what you just encountered, and build towards the main conflict. Stage 4 is the climax, dealing with the conflict. And then stage 5 is the resolution, wrapping things up, making everyone feel like they've finished the things they want to do, That's 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3,
Yep.
4, 5.
You count.
And when you plan those things, keep in mind your time. That's why I wanted to go over time first. Like I said, average for me is about 4 hours. So I typically spend about half an hour mingling. Then the encounter happens and everyone's comfortable. You plan something that no matter what they're doing, no matter what your players have done to your game, no matter how they've fucked it up, no matter how many stupid avenues they've taken, because people are going to do that, that encounter needs to happen to everybody no matter what to bring the group back together, and it's almost like that call to arms or call to action. And so that usually falls about half an hour to 45 minutes in, and then investigating that encounter, acquiring equipment and knowledge, that can be about an hour, building towards that main conflict. The main conflict itself, and this is a vague one, but that could be, 2 hours of gameplay, learning, dealing, fighting, discovering, chatting, whatever your game's about. And then I like to leave about an hour or so to make sure everyone's had a fun game. If you've got, this is not something you can plan for from the start, but you can have some tools on your belt to pull out if you see something like this happening. If someone's not having fun, if they've been quiet, if they've been, maybe like, really, they made the interior decorator and they're feeling fucking useless, you can take that last hour to, it's the, what the hell is that, not the détente. That was some nuclear arms talk shit. I don't know what it's called. One of those things. Haley, you're a writer. Maybe you know.
The debutante?
No.
My debutante interior decorator is just useless.
It sounds like a character I'd make, not gonna lie.
Anyway, that last hour can be spent making sure everyone had a good time. Because, and maybe this is a future topic we'll discuss on this podcast, getting over your own misgivings about yourself as a DM. You're feeling bad about yourself. You want to make sure everyone's having fun. You can do that in the last hour. That's the gist of the 5-step process. I won't go any more details.
Is that
I'll let you all
patented?
talk.
Trademarked.
Deus Ex Machina? Is that the word they were looking for?
No. The thing that it's like Sawtooth thing, there's like the rising action, the climax, and then whatever happens after the climax.
Falling action?
So you're describing the 3-act structure, which is what I rigidly follow whenever I design a 4-hour one-shot.
Yeah.
Bro, you got your rigid 3, I got a rigid 5, bro. 5 inches of rigid... You're not wrong, Clayton. I'm just a hack. I ripped it off.
So I follow the 3-act structure.
Tell me about it.
The 3-act structure includes exposition, the rising action, and the climax. Yes. Believe it or not.
Wow.
I spent like 10 minutes on Wikipedia finding this information out.
Hold on. Are you saying that KP copied that information?
I'll have you know that I spent 10 minutes drunk on wine smoking a cigarette outside thinking of my 5-act structure.
So your 5-act structure is literally half an hour old, and I've been using this for 15 fucking years to great success.
Boys, please.
And the human race has been using it for about 4,000 years.
The story structure that I attempt to follow, because I am fairly new to DMing, is another 5-act structure, but it's Common World Order, Rising Action, Crisis, Climax, and then New World Order. I think the crisis and the climax are very important because a lot of times people skip over. The crisis should be the moment in which everybody feels like all is lost. The question of will they slay the dragon? It has to be the definitive no. And then the climax, which is when they have to deal with that resounding no, and then the New World Order is a yes. Where they do slay the dragon. So I think having moments of crisis really helps invigorate your game, engages the players, and it makes them excited to go into that final climax to deal with whatever the bad guy is.
So you're saying you do this 5-act structure, both of you. How many plot points do you have in a game?
2. The initial encounter, whether it's combat or, meeting the smarmy vampire fucking salesman.
Selling vampires?
Yeah, you're right. And then the main climax is a plot point that no matter what the players, no matter what fucking wacky shit they've done in my one-shot, they're all forced to do the other part 2. The other
Do you know
thing.
how bitter you sound?
I like that. I like to run one-shots, Jordan.
I'm not a particularly good DM when it comes to one-shots, but I try to get one goal and just stick to one goal. Like, I'm really proud of the Western one-shot that I ran. I thought everybody had a lot of fun, and it was very mainstreamed, and we hit the 4 mark pretty evenly. You guys have to take this horse carriage from one town to the next town, and whatever you do between that and the plot is up to you. They decided to rip off and murder the people that hired them by working with the people that they were paid to transport as slaves. And they freed them, and they were like, now raise up arms and kill all of the people. And it was great. If they didn't do that, then they would have gotten the carriage, they would have gotten paid, and they would have had to deal with a different encounter. But giving them one goal, keeping it simple, it's so easy to get taken away with all of these plot points. Trust me, I know that's my biggest flaw. I love stories, and I love complex stories. So when you're working a one-shot, you have to keep it simple so that way all of your players can do things that they want to do and not have it be overcrowded.
And you need some resolving action, also known as denouement. That's the word I couldn't think of. Denouement.
That's a real 5
denouement.
You know, are you done?
You're a gem tonight.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. I, for once, agree with Haley.
Ah.
I don't know how many times on the podcast can someone check the tapes? How many times have I said for once I agree with Haley?
This is the first.
This is the first.
I
Okay.
think it might be the second, actually. Like, not even trying to be just that guy.
I think I've said it one other time.
Yeah.
So the second time that I've ever agreed with Haley.
First time was practice, though. So.
Yeah, this I didn't have. This is for real. I can't even put, like, an act structure to the way I run one-shots. And that's not like a, welcome to my twisted fantasy, like, sort of deal.
All right, Kanye.
It's more, I just, like, I have a story I want to tell, or I'm literally just improvising the whole one-shot, so I don't really have an act structure for anyone to follow. Like, I'm literally just responding to what people give me. And not, obviously, don't do that with, like, an experienced group of players. That's more for, like, if we, like, were ever to run a one-shot, I'd probably do more improv style. But, yeah.
Because you're afraid of the repercussions, aren't you?
Of what?
You're afraid we'll get real upset with you. Stop being friends with you.
Oh, wait, hold on. No, rewind here. Of what?
Is there some old Greg in there? Is that what you were doing just now?
Rick Bailey's from a shoe.
Oh my god. Okay.
No, I'm actually being somewhat serious, though. When I play with friends, I put a lot more thought into the game versus randos. Because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of what they'll think of me.
See, I'm the exact opposite. Like,
Oh.
I don't give a shit what you guys think, so I'm gonna just improv. I don't know. Wow, this has been a journey. This entire talking point. To wind this back around.
Yeah, back to agreeing with me.
Oh, you're right. God. I tend to actually either run over my time slot for one shots and have to rush the conclusion, or we don't end up finishing at all. Usually. And
Sounds
that's
familiar.
just because I can't. And sometimes it's not my fault. Sometimes, like, there's shit happens, like somebody has to leave, or someone needs to, like, go away for a while, so I can't. You lose time that way. And then other times it's just I maybe, like, again, I had that story in my head, plotted out, and I sort of I overshoot, like, how long I think it's going to take. And so something that I initially planned to be 5 hours, due to all the other factors, or maybe, like, people spending more time on certain elements of the plot than others, like, you immediately run into it running over. Mm-hmm. So I think that you need to really, I guess, like Haley said, like, keep it simple, stupid. For a one-shot. Again, unless it is an all-day affair, in which case, like, go hog wild, do whatever you want to do. But if you are running at a convention or something and you need to hit that time frame, I would not. I would follow Clayton's TM trademark patented 3-step process. Don't follow Kyle's.
Guys, 5 is more bigly than 3.
Stole it.
Yeah, but it's not like $19.99.
3 installments.
Even worse.
But wait, there's more. For only one more installment of $19.99, you get my patented note-taking skills. Open up WordPad. Nothing with fucking hypertext. Nothing with fucking, we're just talking like simple ASCII characters, and you type out 2 hyphens
In Wingdings.
Oh, anyway, yeah. That is your fucking title, right there.
So to actually, I don't know what that was even about again, but the Star Wars one shot that almost everyone at this table here was in was actually one of the few. I've finished quite a few one shots that I've run, but the Star Wars one was the only one where it was like I didn't have to rush the conclusion. Like it ended on a good note, at a good place, and everything just wrapped up nicely. So I'm not sure.
That might have been the best one shot I've ever played in, by the way.
Wow, well,
that really felt
here.
conclusive.
That was very, you did such an excellent job with that one shot.
Well, damn, guys, now we just have to find the elixir of what that was and boil it down, and we have a surefire way.
I'm really sad I missed that one, because I've always heard so much about it.
Well,
you can hear everything about it because it's on the actual play feed.
You underestimate how much
It's not the
time
best
I
quality,
have.
unfortunately.
I was going to mention, though, was that the first game we recorded, our first actual play?
Technically.
It wasn't the first game we recorded, but it was the first one that was incomplete.
As far as the elixir goes, Kyle, I was wondering if it was the pressure of knowing we might publish it one day that caused us all to kind of stick with, I'm snapping this loud, stick with the plot, you know?
Yeah.
Could it also be that it's a
known universe?
It's a known universe that everybody at our table likes. It's something that we all know. And I mean, people want to be a part of the Star Wars universe. So of course we're going to have fun exploring these things and be really invigorated and excited to discover these new plot points you might let out.
I don't want to be in the Star Wars universe. I'd be a fucking moisture farmer. I want to be in Starfleet. My shit's paid for.
You could just go to the Academy.
Yeah.
Imperial Academy.
Oh.
Yes.
No.
And I think that's interesting because, and that was with Laura's character that unfortunately, she wasn't really feeling that well that day or whatever was happening. So her character, if you guys remember, was kind of on the periphery. But despite that, you guys still hit all the plot points, just one after another. And even though I always bring up that, all right, guys, you're going to go do an Ocean's 11 heist, right? You're like, we don't even have to go to the expo. Even with that, it's still, everything still worked out pretty fine. So I don't know. I guess to bring it back around again, stop my own tangent. I'm going to probably sit down and really think about what made that as successful as it was and try to not replicate it, but see if I can break down the elements maybe and then.
Well, I think we're onto something with focused players who wanted to stick with the plot. We were a little nervous because we were being recorded, in my opinion, that this is a part of it, a small part. We wanted to make sure that it was coherent. It was a known universe, Haley. We all knew Star Wars. We all love Star Wars.
And although we didn't make characters, we made them ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And my character was actually a character carried over from a one-shot that Jordan had run a couple years prior.
You already had the personality.
So I already had...
What character?
The character I played in KD's game was one of the youngling Jedis from your Order 66
Holy
game.
Shit, that was a long time ago.
Who had grown up, basically not knowing anything. And my character was going after character who would turn to the dark side.
Nice.
Where was I during this game?
Weren't you there for that?
No.
I'm not alone.
Jason Skirt, probably.
If by that you mean working in the miserable grinder that is film in a small town of Cincinnati.
Like I said.
Ugh.
Yeah, so I guess maybe... Anyway, I'm so sorry, Kyle. I guess maybe having continuity to another one-shot, or at least, knowing the personality going in probably helped quite a bit for you. And even you, we had talked about... I'm talking to Kyle. We had talked about your character, a couple days prior, and what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I wanted to be an Imperial spy, and that was a ballsy thing to do and to allow me to do in a one-shot, mind you. But I thought it worked out great.
Yeah, no, and then even...
I mean, I'm a really good player, so that...
Oh, you're naturally talented. So you obviously, no normal person could pull off that kind of character.
No, it takes a lot to pull off that kind of maneuver.
I don't know. So I guess that's a big part of it, too. If you're going to be doing... talk to your players about what they want to play. If they're making them, or if they're even doing pre-gens, ask them. See which one they like.
It happens to be that my favorite one-shots that I play are when the players get a chance to participate in creating the world. So if you know what you're playing ahead of time, how long did you say that, hey, we're going to do a Star Wars one-shot, or was it the day of?
In advance of?
Yeah.
I think we had a full week.
Probably a full week.
Yeah, we made characters.
It was probably the end of our normal gaming session. For whatever reason, I was I'm going to run this Star Wars one-shot. and then that was what we could do.
That was cool. I couldn't stop thinking about the one shot for the entire week because I made my character. I was pumped about old Benecal Secunda, Benny, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So a week later, I was primed. I was ready. I was oiled up.
You're a man.
I'm a man. I'm coming.
When I first started playing with this group, or at least the BC of what this group was, with Jordan and Clayton and we used to play at Donkey.
So before Christ. You're Christ.
Yeah, that implies a Christ figure, Haley.
Haley,
Haley,
which one of us is the Christ figure, Haley? Right now. Which one? Who is it? If you say him, I'm gonna punch him.
I would stand by and do nothing as Clayton was sacrificed, but then I'd feel real bad about it, and then I'd spread the word.
I'm going to have to say Kyle Griswold because I've played with you before this group.
Or was the Christ figure who left us and,
God!
and is no longer with us?
Oh.
R.I.P.
Guys, we have to cut this out because we said his real name.
Yeah.
He's in Ohio again for the fucking winter season because his work in Alaska's seasonal.
Where is he?
He texted me. I don't know. He just texted me. I got to get back to him.
Get him down here.
Yeah.
Oh.
That'd be fucking cool.
That'd be awesome.
Anyway.
Well, my point being, when I was first playing with the beginnings of what this group would yet to be, that sentence doesn't make sense. Jordan, Clayton, and I, we used to play at Donkey, and every week I'd I'd put myself into your games because I really wanted to hang out with you guys. And this was before we were good friends. And I text her, so hey, what are you and your friends doing? And they tell me what the game is, and I get so excited to come and play these one-shots with you that I'd be really interested. I felt hair flipped that I was very invested player, but knowing ahead of time what the one-shot was going to be about, or it helped me get my levels of excitement and my levels of participation up. And that's something I really miss. Like, I also really miss the wackiness of it. Like, I remember Spider Mage, whatever that fucking was. I remember the Dead President superhero game, one of the best. The time we were 80s characters, when we stopped the lizard people from killing us, and I got to be the Baroness. Like, I love those one-shots, and I treasure them, and I miss them so much. But I think what made them great for me was knowing about them and building up this anticipation. And while I do really enjoy that we get to improv, like, hey, we're not doing anything tonight, want to do one shot? Improvising it, I feel like that's something that could make your game really great, is making sure that everyone that you're playing with is on the same page.
100% agree. Making sure that everybody is on the same page cuts down on so much extraneous things. It cuts down on the players just floundering in a one-shot.
Yeah.
That there is nothing worse than the players floundering.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to make every major plot point a decision point. Sometimes it's a, do we do this or do we do that? I try not to have more than 2 options for each decision. Whenever I'm designing my game session, like I said, I try to follow the 3-act structure. And depending on the amount of time I have, it influences how many plot points I have in that one shot. The number of plot points I have is directly proportionate to the number of hours that the game is going to last. I try to have one plot point, one vital piece of information that the player characters are going to learn per 1.5 hours of the game.
This makes me think back to the first one shot I ever tried to run. Star Trek.
What did I tell you?
What you just said to everyone else.
Yep.
Please recount the tale.
Alright, you're me. You're a young man. You're a little skinnier. You're still really handsome, but, skinnier. Not everyone's into fat guys these days, unfortunately. But hey, you're cool, and you decide to run a Star Trek one-shot. Boy, howdy. What a fucking concept. You decide also to make an entire star system with about 10 planets. Each planet is interesting, well-crafted, genius in its own right.
And has a plot point.
It has a plot point, or 3. There's also a floating derelict Starfleet ship and a space station, alien. And you
in an asteroid field.
In an asteroid field.
Minefield.
A minefield that
Minefield,
the party has to navigate.
Yep.
Did you mention the super intelligent robot?
Oh, and an AI that's become sentient. Not to mention, this all ties back into that episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where the Husnock get wiped out by that guy who's posing as just a simple farm man with his wife on a farm plot on an otherwise barren planet. Good episode.
Oh, yeah, fan favorite.
Yep.
So, you decide to do that, and then you realize that it's
going to take more than 4
going
hours.
to take more than 4 hours. Jesus
How many
Christ.
hours
It
did
was
it
fucking
take?
involved.
We didn't finish it. We played
We
three
played-
sessions.
Yeah.
So it turned into a mini campaign.
Yeah, yeah, and we didn't finish it.
We only got from planet 10 to, 3?
3.
Yeah, we still had 2 completely untouched planets.
Plus the derelict ship.
And a derelict ship.
You guys did it justice, though. I wish we could have finished it, but yeah, don't do what I did for your first one-shot. I mean, ambition is admirable. It's a great idea to put a lot of thought into something, because if someone has a question about the world, you've thought about the answer. But, God, you don't have to do that. Have 2 plot points. Have an intro, and then a biggin. And the rest of the stuff in between, just fucking pull it out of your butthole.
Way out of there.
So for that one shot, what was the win-fail condition? Because that's something that every one of my one-shots have. They have a win-fail condition. That is the focus of the story. That's what they're trying to do. Everything builds toward either them succeeding or failing at some task.
The fail condition was to allow the sentient AI to basically be free, but without learning anything, because it was it was enslaved by this alien race. Let it free. It will overload this basically like mini sun that they had kind of artificially created as the power source of this massive space station. The mini sun would go supernova and wipe out the system, and probably the player's ships along with it. Even if you escaped, you would still not complete your mission. Mission complete, there were a few different options here, which maybe that was a mistake. Mission complete was learn a lot, and then maybe the station goes supernova, but you still got your mission completed. You could also get like the best ending by helping the AI to become less pissed off, and finally the third win condition would be to do all of that, and then also basically mercifully kill the crew of that Starfleet ship, because they had been put in a hibernation stasis situation where their bodies were frozen and they would no longer age, but their minds were active. And it had been like 200 years, so they were fucking nuts. There was one Vulcan character that basically went into extended meditation that would have been okay, but the rest of them were fucking insane balls. So, anyway, it's way too complex for a one-shot. Don't do it.
But it's perfectly fine to set up a one-shot that is open-ended and inviting for the players to come back and play again if you want to run a mini-campaign or a full-fledged campaign. That's totally cool. TV shows have pilots all the time, and it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't have spoiled it.
Well, too late now. At some point, I did start thinking of one-shots as pilot episodes for, like, a bigger campaign. And that was actually what caused a downfall of one of the one-shots I ran. I tried to do, like, a fantasy western where it was, like, set in the, right after the Civil War in the American West, but, like, the big difference was there was just a bunch of fantasy races running around, and it had been that way, like, forever. Like, no one batted an eye at it. And unfortunately, it was supposed to be just a cut and dry, like, your characters are playing, like, U.S. Marshals going to go track down, like, some illegal mages, because in this universe, magic was, like, strictly regulated.
I'd have played Tommy Lee Jones.
Could have. And unfortunately, at some point, and it was supposed to be just cut and dry, they were going to go, like, find this gang, there's going to be some encounters, maybe, like, a chase, wrap it all up in 4 hours. But at some point, I kind of did what Kyle did, and I got, like, too invested in the universe, and so I had them, like, do this weird encounter on a train, and get, like, this weird plot about, like, a conspiracy happening back, like, on the East Coast in D.C., which had no importance in the one shot at all. Like, zero. They weren't going to D.C., they were going out to fucking Oregon territory or whatever.
They were literally on the rails.
Away from D.C.,
yeah.
and I'm over there like, yeah, and this guy tells you the start of this deep conspiracy, and everyone's like, oh, wow, can we, like, turn the train around and go back? And I'm like, well, no. I got all the stuff statted out for the West, so I guess be cautious in that you don't fixate on that too much, because I definitely did in that scenario, and like we ended up running out of time because they were on the train as they should have been, because I kept throwing shit at them on the train about like random stuff in the world that was cool, like it was cool world building stuff, but it wasn't the point of the plot. Like they weren't getting any closer to the fucking gang that was running around killing people. So I guess just be careful if you are going to leave it open ended or as like a pilot thing, because you don't want to have that overtake it being a one-shot.
It sounds like you guys tend to do much more structured stories for one-shots than what I try to do. Usually, there's been a few exceptions to this, but usually I like to just give players an obvious purpose and then think of a few cool things to happen, problems, encounters, whatever along the way, and just let them have at it. And if it looks like they're floundering or if they need a particular thing, whatever, just pick something out of the bag and toss it at them. And, if they happen to come upon the place where I thought X, Y, and Z would happen, then that's cool. If not, shoehorn it in somewhere else. But, it's hard enough to try to predict what players are going to do when you play with them a bunch over the course of a campaign. But getting some grab bag of people that you may never usually play with, I mean, it's kind of a fool's errand to try to, keep all of that into one consistent script with, a 3-act structure, I think. I've never had very much success with it. So, I don't know. I would counsel fast and loose.
Well, the 3-act structure is what I follow whenever I have plenty of prep time. I have done several that literally I don't know what we're playing when we show up, because the players create the world and create the setting and the characters and everything.
And you'll never do one of those again, right?
Yes, and I will never do one of those again.
I can't believe you tried that. That sounds like just an absolute horror scenario for
I've done it a couple times.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't learn my lesson the first time.
Well, hold on. KP, a lot of the one-shots that you do, that we end up playing, are very much so like that. And I think you're pretty freaking good at it. So tell us the secret ingredient.
Well, really quick though, first, Clayton, was the final straw the last one of those that you ran?
Everybody has a talking animal familiar.
That is
cool. And it is cool.
Never forget that little tidbit.
And they are talking ducks.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame you for pulling the plug after that one.
And we're set in the 1920s. On an alternate world that is not Earth, but Mirth.
Okay. But it's the afterlife of Mars.
It's the afterlife.
Here's what you do in that situation. The big bad is Donald Duck, a character that existed in the 1920s-ish, give or take. They are a duck. They're cool. Donald Duck is cool. He was a sailor, man. Sailors were cool back in the day. And he kind of sounds like Will Smith's character from Independence Day.
But
Welcome to Mirth.
Everybody was basically reincarnated.
Yeah, and so then you actually have that be a smokescreen, where the real big bad is Walt Disney, who is essentially controlling a mass simulation where people are plugged in to the, Disney chair that was a big purchased item in 2019. It went awry. People are trapped in the Disneyverse.
You gotta stop Disney corporate capitalism before it starts, man.
Yeah. People, see, that's the thing. You can fool all of the people some of the time. And you can fool some of the people all of the time. But you can't fool yourself.
I'm gonna say
you gotta have fun with it.
Yeah, you can.
I'm gonna say that was beyond salvaging, so the fact that you did what you did with it was a good effort.
In a way, I applaud you, Clayton, because a one-shot is a great opportunity to do experimental shit that may or may not be fun in a campaign or whatever, but, you got some wacky idea, just give it a go and see if it sticks. Good on you for doing it, but damn, I wouldn't.
Well, in all seriousness, I think back to the one shot I tried to do with time travel and Star Trek ships, and a bunch of real people in today's world encounter a couple of Star Trek ships that they're beamed aboard, and how it just disintegrated. It doesn't always work.
I think that problem was due to the fact that there were, 12 to 14 players?
Yeah, that was doomed.
It also was a mixture of people playing, of people we play together a lot, and then people who are new to gaming as well.
So, we were talking about how to
You were
run
talking
a
about
one
the Star
shot.
Trek one with time travel.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
and the one shot that you might be tempted to do, where you ask your players what story elements you have on board. We've heard some examples here. I've done it successfully. I've done it poorly. We have a player here or a DM and player who would never do it again. Anyone else have any thoughts on how to make that happen? I have some, but I'll hold my tongue for a while.
Make a player-generated one-shot happen? Is that what you're asking about? Like the whole setting?
The entire setting. Now, mind you, if you stick with my 5-step program, you can make any setting work.
Man,
But
No.
what you get is just this clusterfuck collage, like every single time. And especially when it's not like a collaborative thing, but like the way you do it is like write random shit on a piece of paper and then let's see what
that way
salad is.
That is what I say I'm never going to do again. I am going to use that Mad Lib that I created for the terrible one shot we did. I'm going to use that again many times. I feel like that worked so well. And that is available on our alienfamiliar.com.
I think some of it can come from sort of the tone as well. Like, that was an attempt at a serious game with all that bizarre shit in the background. I run a game with that exact we're describing this, like, everyone goes around and gives a aspect of the world, and you incorporate it. And I've run a game like that with a co-GM. And it was just... But we both knew it was going to be wacky nonsense. And so I think that helped a little bit, because we weren't trying to make it serious. Like, it was just sort of everybody give us some strange stuff, we'll come up with a world and just sort of improv our way through a one-shot. And it was fun, and people enjoyed it, but, there wasn't any serious storytelling moments there. No one really,
Excuse me, a queen died. If I'm thinking of, if you're talking about the same one.
The one I ran with Kenny.
Yeah. A queen died. It was very serious.
Okay, but, there was no point in time where I was trying to sell that as, like, a serious attempt at storytelling. Major.
Even if you don't attempt some, really detailed narrative to come out of what you're doing, I still think that you should play as rules light as possible. Don't get into, some lengthy combat. If you can't resolve it in more than, 5 or 6 turns, then don't do it, because it's going to become the whole damn game. And, if you got a group who wants to just, kill goblins for 4 hours, then that's fine, but I think...
You can do that in World of Warcraft, though.
Yeah, most players enjoy the crazy shit that they do that's outside of combat, so... Yeah, if you're looking up rules in the middle of your one shot, you're definitely doing something wrong.
I could say that about most games, coming from a person who looks up rules every Eclipse Phase game we play. I guess that kind of shepherds us into the part of the nitty-gritty of running it.
Yeah.
Now you're in it. You've done this to yourself for some goddamn reason.
Yeah, everybody's there. They got character sheets in front of them. And the most important thing you can do at the very beginning is, like KD said, is just establish the tone, establish the style. I think that the best way to do that is just flat out tell everyone what the tone and style is. You can use your descriptions to reinforce that, but it's absolutely critical that everybody is on board with that and knows what to expect out of the game right out of the gate, because nothing is going to ruin a game faster than one character, everybody else making playing a modern day game, and everybody else making legitimate sounding names, and then one player naming their character Schmitty McPoopy Pants.
That sounds like a citation from a prior experience.
Yes, it is.
Care to recall?
I don't think I will share that at this time. But based on the name, I think you can guess how well that session went.
Yeah, I would hit that character with a bus immediately.
The
says
player
at
as well,
Castle
right?
Grayskull.
I don't have a bus in real life.
Yet. You can get one. Also, I noticed that you just threw some shade at
was a polite
Skeletor
shade.
at castlegrayskull.edu.
Wait, I completely missed that. I was talking to Kyle, and
Yeah.
what did you have to say about
You about shitty movie. It's like coming from
No, Skeletor at
castlegrayskull.edu.
Now, here's the thing.
Clayton, can you describe the setting that we were playing in for some context here?
Well, why instead of describing this setting, why don't you just download the episode on alienfamiliar.com?
There we go.
The point is, a wacky name can fit into the theme, if the theme is wacky. But one of my favorite one-shots I've ever ran, I have several, but this one was a horror one-shot where the characters were college student-aged and had a very minor paranormal power. For example, they could always predict a coin flip, and only that. That was it. And most people took it very seriously, and it was a great cast of characters, and it led to a great one-shot. Except this one fucko who made a goddamn little person who had one arm, and they rode a Segway, and, a midget! It was a midget, Jordan!
Oh.
God.
And they rode a Segway, and they were a bodybuilder, but they only had one arm, so they had one really lopsided arm, so their Segway had to constantly compensate, because they're supposed to balance the weight.
Wow, you greenlit this?
And here's the thing. It was his friend, and I trusted
Hmm?
and brought this person to the table, and they made that character.
Well, you know her track record.
And I told them straight to their face, I told this person, you can play this character, but I'm going to take this exact character very, very seriously. Meaning, in my mind, their Segway is going to fall over, it'll have limited battery life, and they're also going to have to deal with the social stigma of being a little person in Hollywood. Significant. So, I killed them.
There.
Anyway, it didn't ruin the game, because I didn't let it. But that kind of thing will kill your session.
Yeah.
If you allow them to take over your one-shot and derail what you are doing, it will make it a bad time for everybody. What do you guys do if you encounter someone being a fucking shit stain in a one-shot? How do you handle that?
You mean if speaking to them one-on-one as a human being, one human being to another fails? Like, because that's the obvious solution. But, you know, barring that.
It can be more, I'm speaking very real here, it can be more complex than that. That is what you should do, and that's what should work. But imagine that person is the significant other of a regular player of yours. Imagine that person is a new friend that is like visiting for the weekend. It could be your boss or a coworker that you have to go and see at work the next day. Beyond being like, okay, I've tried to reason with you, get out. Like, I know that you should be able to do that, but sometimes you can't. So how can you mitigate that using your DM powers?
Well, DMs are the arbiters of what happens in the game, and so unless whatever they say is acknowledged and applied to the, you know, canon reality of the moment in the game, it doesn't happen. So you could just completely ignore them if you wanted to.
If they are a new player, then I will take them aside and explain how a role-playing game is about everybody around the table working together to have fun, and that this game style does not meet or is not in tune with what everybody else is here at the table to play, and kind of go explain the type of game that this group normally plays. If it is somebody who is supposedly an experienced player and is doing this just for shits and giggles, boot them.
Now, what if that fails? What do you do? But and like in Kyle's example, you still.
Well, if they won't leave your home, you call them.
No, I meant if you have that conversation and maybe they just pay you lip service or whatever, and it is someone that like is a husband or wife of a regular player or a coworker of yours or something that like you kind of got awkwardly roped into including, like, what do you do?
Well,
you can go ahead.
Well, after you've had the conversation about respecting the fun of everybody else at the table, they're the one being the total asshole, so I feel you're entirely justified to be a complete asshole back.
So that's what I agree with. Like, I would just isolate them in the game.
I agree. I isolate them in the game. Either I isolate them in a fucking glass cage of hurt, and I make them have a terrible time, but I don't always do that. sometimes, and this is a general strategy for when you're in a one-shot, especially when you have a huge group. I tried to do it and I kind of failed at the time travel Star Trek one-shot where I had 12 players. But when you have a huge group, it's okay, in my opinion, to separate your players into squads. And as long as you are giving, or at least trying your damnedest to give fair attention to each squad and cycle around, mostly that works. We can get into the nitty-gritty of that shortly, and I'd like to. But dealing back with that shitty player that you can't get rid of for political reasons, whatever that may be, isolate them, sure. Maybe, and I actually did this with the one-armed Segway bandit.
It was a bandit, too.
Give them what they want in enough, like, drug dealer doses that you leave them wanting more, but they also leave you the fuck alone for a while. So with this guy, what I did was his combat fucking system, and this was Fate, he threw, he was a, bodybuilder, so he would throw, dumbbells, he would throw weights at enemies, and he'd always carry around weights, and he was always lifting weights. And so I gave him a limited supply of weights, and he agreed to that, actually. And what I would do is, on his turn, when I'd come around to just him, because he was never with the party, basically, I would give the party a break. We were all, like, drinking and having a fun time. People would go smoke a cigarette, have a few drinks, whatever. I'd go back to this asshole. And I would say, all right, you're alone in the hallway. The lights are off. You've got your weight. You find this creepy crawly. How do you deal with it? And all I could tell this guy wanted to do was be a weird stereotype character and fight shit. And so I gave him all the fucking combat, and that's how I killed him, is I threw bigger and bigger things at him until he died.
But he was in the process of throwing smaller and smaller things because his weights were running out.
Right? And so that's how I made it. That's how I mitigated that. I know that won't work every time. I do think that does track back to just the initial strategy of isolation. But it worked. I was able to split things up. I think you can use that strategy if you have a large group, if you have an asshole player. If you have a player that's really experienced and a bunch of players that are not so much, maybe, if everyone's comfortable, have that experienced player go off and do some more, like, hey, step outside with me for a minute and talk about some more advanced stuff. As long as everyone feels like they're getting their fair share, even if they're not, they're getting the illusion of a fair share, it works.
If you have to dodge dealing with a problem player for political purposes outside of game, if they are a real pain in the ass, then they've probably pissed off other players, and odds are good that you might have, 1, 2, or 3 characters, who, given half an opportunity from you, will gladly deal with the problem on their own.
You're damn right.
You can duck responsibility entirely.
Yeah, don't be afraid to fall back on your friends or veteran players, too. Like, I know that it's a weird world we live in, and you have to fucking use tact to deal with people sometimes. Fall back on your veterans, fall back on your friends, have them help you out. As a DM, you're not alone, necessarily.
There's one other thing I want to talk about, and that's just advice to players in a one-shot. A one-shot, even when it's one of these wacky games, is not a sandbox campaign. A one-shot is not the time to go out and exploring the world. It is not the time to go and spend an hour in character in real time doing another character's hair or some other completely inane just side task.
I'm going to go hunt for truffles.
Yes. It's not the venue, nor is it the time to play an incredibly deep and nuanced character, because literally you've only got a few hours. You don't have time for nuance. Anything that you want to have that is nuanced is just going to come across as a boring blank character, because that's the majority of nuanced characters that I've seen they really are deep, but they're almost always introspective. They're almost always apart in some way, and those just don't play well in a one-shot.
You could end up being more of a burden on the DM than you want to be or intend to be.
Right. I feel like if you cannot define your character in a sentence, in a simple sentence, it is just too nuanced for a one-shot.
Yeah. One-shots are really fun to play a character idea that just struck you as interesting or amusing or whatever one day, but you know that you wouldn't want to play that for 6 months.
Hell yeah.
Just, let's play with this game mechanic or this background or this weird race that, I'd never want to play for more than whatever. Like, if somebody proposed a D&D one-shot to me, I very well might play a gnome. I'm not going to fucking do that for a year and a half of my life, but it might be cool just to see what it's like.
Some of my best characters have come from one-shots. You aren't so up your own ass that you create this deep, nuanced character with a fucking page-long backstory and all these contacts and enemies. You just fucking roll with something. That's how I made Jimmy Hawk. I thought it was going to be a one-shot character. I love that guy.
So good.
I love one-shots for that reason. I think we've maybe spent like 55% of our time tonight shitting on one-shots and 45% supporting them. But when it comes to being a player in a one-shot, maybe because we've been thinking about DM-related stuff. But as a player in a one-shot, fuck, it's fun.
Yeah. I loved that Paladin of the Apocalypse character that I played in one of Jordan's D&D 3.5 games, spouting out, like, all the good things that the apocalypse was going to bring.
Well, traffic will be less. Kyle, I know you touched on this. Having one-shots lend to interesting characters. You gotta have a story, man. There's something going on there.
A one-shot character that turned out to be something incredible.
Yeah.
Does Haley have one? Because I gotta think for a second. I'd be very hard-pressed to believe that you don't. So I don't know why I even asked the question. Should have been a declarative statement.
I talked possibly briefly about this earlier, but Laura's one-shot. I thought everybody came into that game thinking, like, oh, it's going to be fun. We'll figure it out because it's Laura's first time DMing, to my knowledge. And I think that's what it was. And I had no clue about the world. And I was like, well, I'll do what I always do, and I'll play a lady. And I got to have a funny accent and a poofy dress, and I was happy. And then I met the other characters, and it was so much goddamn fun. And my character went on a hell of a character arc, and I just love her, and I'd love to go back to that world. I talk about that game so goddamn much. Lady Lila of the Victorian age, who fell in love with your sea captain. Kyle Driscoll.
Barbosa.
Yeah, Captain Barbosa.
Literally Barbosa.
The accidental day we found out that I have a thing for Captain Barbosa from Pirates of the Caribbean, unironically.
That's a point I want to press a little bit harder, is just that, like, doing just completely wacky voices and other experimentations like that, not just in character concepts, but just in the way that you portray a character, which is in a campaign of even 3 or 4 sessions is going to wear incredibly thin, can be a shitload of fun to do just for 4 hours.
You do a damn fine Ferengi, sir.
Oh my god.
That is a character I wish I could play for an entire campaign.
Well, you know I want to do a Star Trek campaign sometime before the next fucking year is up. Mark my words. Today. 11/11.
It's
the
Veterans
11th?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's Veterans Day.
11/11.
11/11, 2017. Mark my words. Before the year is out, we'll do a Star Trek campaign.
Yes.
This year?
Before 11/11/2018.
Oh.
Sorry, one
So,
year's
okay,
time.
so starting today,
365
going
days.
forward.
Yeah. Not a masochist.
I did think of one. I once played a character. His name was Mithron Snowforge.
Dwarf?
What
Elf,
else?
actually. No, it was a dwarf. It was very stereotypical. Wow. Holy fuck. Okay.
Take it slow.
Woo! Very.
Take it slow.
Are you sure about that?
Battle cruiser operational.
Very stereotypical dwarf. And what made him fun, though, was he would just honor fight everyone. And this game, it was a one-off within a longer running campaign. So, like, some people were playing their characters from the main campaign, but me and another person, and then wanted to, like, switch and do something different. And so old Mithron, he was just an honor-bound dwarf out in the middle of the desert, and he hailed from, like, a snowy mountain, so he hated it. But we ended up, like, cutting through most of the one-shot's plot, because we ran into this, like, martial character that he was in charge of he was a corrupt guy who was in charge of this, but he did have this weird sense of honor. And so initially he was supposed to, like, show up and monologue at us and then leave. But he shows up, and of course my dwarf draws his weighted scimitar, which is, he didn't have anything else, he just had that, and it is just like, fight me! And rolled charisma, and rolled pretty decently, surprisingly, for a dwarf, which, not the most charismatic of people. And I ended up just honor fighting the dude, probably about 45 minutes into the one-shot, and I beat him. And so...
Was it to the death or just to victory?
Just to victory. And so I spare him, and so the GM had to, like, just sort of ad-lib the next couple hours, because the big bad was just... he was done. He was done, so. And everyone would just be like, man, your dwarf, he's really got away with words. And I'm like, well, that's definitely one thing that he has to away with. But I really like that character because I guess I've never been able to do that before. Just play a character, because that was his personality. Like, he would have challenged that guy to an honor fight, and if the GM wasn't a dumbass, he would have said no. But of course, he let it happen, and look what happened. So that's why he sticks out to me, I guess. It's not so much... Like, I think your question, Kyle, was more like a wacky personality, or like a really, like, Jimmy Hawk was your example.
Just memorable. Memorable.
Yeah, he sticks out to me because, like, I did the plot, like, way quicker than I should have. So.
And in a way that you might have been afraid to do otherwise in a long
Oh, yeah, campaign. Absolutely. Had this been a long-running campaign, I would have assumed initially that this guy was, like, 3 levels higher than me, and, all this other bullshit, essentially, and I would have been like, oh no, I'll just say some mean words, but I won't actually, like, show up and, like, push him and be like, fight me, Like
a true dwarf, you had no fear of death.
Literally. And so, but because it was a one-shot, and I'm like, well, I like this character, but, like, I don't care if he dies.
Yeah,
and the dude was, like, 2 levels higher than me, but it just went in my favor. I was really good at fighting one-on-one. That was, like, my whole character.
1v1 me, bro.
Yeah. So.
I would like to, if possible, change my answer.
No.
Can't take it back.
You can add another answer.
I would like to add another answer. Because what you were talking about, exploring a character and having impact on what the DM did. I am, as you may know, if you listen to podcasts, I'm in a campaign of World of Darkness, and we play a lot of vampires.
I've never heard this before. You play vampires?
I do. I play a lot of vampires. It's shocking, I know. But we're coming on creating our 4th campaign story arc, and the girl who was running it wasn't sure what they wanted to do, so said, I want to run a one-shot. I'm going to test out a bunch of characters that may or may not be NPCs, and we'll see what hits and what doesn't. So we got a bunch of characters, and I was given a name, and I was given what type of clan I was. And I was playing a character named Johnny, and they were a Ravnos. And so I decided to be a hyperactive roller skate girl who stole the name of the Ramones and had it, like, tattooed, like, not tattooed, but printed on her helmet with Sailor Moon pigtails, who used to use them to hit people and was obsessed with breaking things. And she was incredible. She was hyperactive. She hugged every single bad guy. And she also broke every single vase she saw, like she was in a Zelda game. And the character, everybody really had a lot of fun, so when we played our next arc, my portrayal of that character got taken in by the DM, and she's consistently showed up in almost every story arc since. Which is really fun and cool to see how I've been able to impact it from the one-shot. But we had no expectations about what was going to hit and what wasn't, and playing that character really brought out this excitement in the DM to explore what that would be, and it had long-lasting ramifications for the rest of the campaign. So that was really fun. And I really enjoy having one-shots that are like test groups to be like, hey, I think I want to play the system, or hey, I want to try out these characters. You can learn a lot of cool shit from one-shots.
I think that my favorite thing about them is indeed and we've touched on this several times, all of us in different ways, the experimental nature of the one-shot. And it gives you, it might be stressful as a DM, and it certainly is challenging as a DM. I think in some ways more challenging than a campaign. But as a player, I struggle to find any more pure way to break your expectations, break out of your mold of characters that you always do all the time, and just fucking roll something, and then roll with it. And that's why they're cool. That's why I like them.
In a one-shot, I've for years wanted to play a D&D game where we use the old-fashioned roll 3d6. That is your strength, dex, con, int, wisdom, charisma down the line.
It's brutal.
Yeah. I think that's the only way that I could convince enough people to play that system would be to do it as a one-shot.
That's this is going to be something really odd. That's a slight tangent, but that's always how I've done D&D. I've never done anything
Point
like that.
by?
Never done point by.
You've never done roll and assign? Really?
So
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is my int rolls. Wow.
Is that I thought that was how you're supposed to do it.
That's how the old men do
It's
it.
old school,
Yeah.
but nobody does it that way anymore. Really.
Weird. That's
I've
bizarre.
never done it that way.
Like I'm
I'd like
just
to
sorry.
do it.
I was just shocked.
No, it'd be cool.
Like, I don't
I'm
know.
super down.
Well, I know KD's on board when I play, because
Apparently, that's what I've been doing the whole
Yeah,
time.
if it was a one-shot,
standard
I would
operating
totally
procedure for you.
Something that I think could be really interesting and maybe helpful for the viewers, but I also would like to know, are there any one-shots that you guys are planning or eventually would like to play?
I am currently designing 2 one-shots. One, it will be in December, and it will be, I'm hoping to record it and release it on the actual play. I'm going to be playing the game system of Dungeon World, but it will be set in the Spelljammer campaign setting. And then in January, where the hosts of Alien Familiar Media, this podcast will be, we will be doing a 3-day long retreat, and I hope to record that and hopefully get a few actual plays out of that.
While we're on the retreat topic, I want to fucking be the hype man here for a minute. We're going to be in a cabin in the. We're going to have.
Don't tell them.
Don't give a location.
They don't know what.
Sound mysterious.
Guy, it's a massive park.
OPSEC, motherfucker.
It's a massive park.
Jesus
All right,
Christ.
we're going to be in a cabin in. And we're going to have some food that doesn't expire until 2037. We're going to have all the food will be thematically appropriate to whatever mystery session our dungeon master decides to run.
It is game narrator in Apocalyptia.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Got
but I
told
can't
some.
do the voice though.
Game narrator.
We're going to have whatever kind of food our game narrator decides is appropriate. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to be in the zone. We're going to be doing a responsible amount of drinking. We're going to have a great time. And if you are looking forward to some really cool actual plays, definitely tune in. Definitely check out our channel. Download our shit. Come look me up on the LinkedIn. I don't have one.
Also, hopefully the quality will be better this time than the Star Wars one shot.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I'd like to bring up that we had someone review our podcast recently. And
Not
they,
recently. It was over the summer.
Was it? Oh, we discovered it recently. They reviewed it a while back. And they listened to a very early episode of ours. It was a Star Wars one, right?
They listened to the actual play Star Wars thing.
Which was the first thing we ever really recorded in the intention of publishing it. It was rough.
I didn't know
we were
I was
young.
being
We were
recorded.
inexperienced.
That's worth pointing out. So there's a point where like I'm in the kitchen running the game and you can't really hear me. And
Anyway, don't believe what you read. Check it out for yourself. alienfamiliar.com. Go there and get a special gift from me.
If they hear that message, they've already checked it out.
Maybe they found it on that other dude's podcast. And then
Then they've already checked it out.
I believe
maybe we
are,
get
by
on
the
another
way.
dude's
Are you
podcast.
trying to fold space-time?
Yeah! I'm in a tunnel, Jordan! God, you ever seen Sphere?
That's what you cite? I have an answer to Haley's question.
Thank you!
There's an Apocalyptia scenario that I've been wanting to run a one-shot of because it could only be a one-shot for a really long time, and I'm curious what you guys think about this. It's that scenario where everybody in the world knows that there is a planet-killing asteroid hurtling towards Earth, and you've got X amount of known time before the entire planet is completely obliterated. What the hell do characters do then?
It's really
How much time, though, how much advance notice? Because I feel like for it to be an interesting story, it would have to be some significant amount of time that the shock of that happening has died off. Like, I don't think that it's just we just found out and oh my god, what are we going to do? We're going to die in 2 days. I don't think that's enough time to for it to really sink into the characters and not just do like, oh, I'd spend time with my family. I'd right all my wrongs or what all of these bullshit things that people say that they would do if they knew that they were going to die. I feel like in order for it to be like a really good scenario, it would have to be like the full gravity of it has come and gone, and now people are just living with it.
The morbidity is just hanging heavy over you.
Here's an idea. A 6-hour session, which is on the longer end of our kind of average time scale for the most part. 3 weeks is the warning you have. So 3 weeks of in-game time. The first week is played out in hour 1 of the game session. The second week of in-game time is played out in hours 2 and 3 of the game session. And the third and final week is played out in hours 4, 5, and 6 of the game session. More time for the more interesting weeks. Does that sound interesting?
That is interesting. But what I'm thinking is what I would love to do in that type of scenario is like Children of Men. We've known for years, but it's the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's down to it now.
We are all going to die. There is nothing that is going to save us.
Yeah, they tried the Armageddon plan.
Yep.
It failed.
Yep. Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck are dead.
Yeah. Terrorists blew up the rich people's spaceships that they were trying to build.
Yep.
And it's just over.
I like that that's like...
Or maybe they got off
the note of finality that we have is like, well, fuck, Ben Affleck and the space ark is dead. So...
Hell, maybe the space ark was successful and has already left.
Left the rest of us schmucks behind.
Wow.
Fuck you, Ben Affleck.
That could be fun. I'd play it.
I have absolutely no idea what people would do.
Drink. Have a lot of sex.
Okay, now, but you have
See,
to factor in...
that's why I want it to be like far away, so that it's not just that impulse thing.
But I think that'd be really interesting if like people have that impulse thing and then they find out that they got another 3 weeks. I think I live with that.
I'd make a cult. I can be a good cult leader.
Why?
Why not? I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna make a cult ever in my life, except if my life is ending in 6 months. Then I make a cult. That sounds cool.
But for what? I mean, like, you get your cult. Hour 3. What then?
We'd probably like
2 of what's the fucking
I think I'd make
one?
a different drug and sex act for every Magic the Gathering card that exists.
Holy fuck.
And I would spend my remaining 6 months on Earth gathering 1 copy of every single Magic card ever printed. That's our quest. And once we have them, we just start pulling, baby. Start pulling cards.
I want to know how you're going to get these followers.
I would follow that.
How are you going to convince them to this religion of just fucking for magic?
Isn't that most religions?
Yeah, but they also there's always a veneer of something else.
Do either of you guys have one shots you ever want to run in the near future?
Well, I'm running one next Thursday, and we're going to see what it is. Find out next time!
Nice.
Maybe not. Are you guys going to record it?
Sure, why not?
Yay! I want to run a one-shot, and because I want to test it to see if it would make a good campaign. But I want to run a one-shot in 5e D&D, slightly homebrewed. But you are not full adventurers yet. You're currently going to college to be adventurers. It's kind of like a
adventure
modern
college.
thing. Yeah, kind of like I'm majoring in trying to be a bard.
Please
or
remove Storm Cleric from the game.
No. Your college is like what your what you do. Like if you're a wizard, you're going to like magic school and you have all these things you have to learn and you level up by going to classes or saying that you go to classes and just dealing with life on campus and having things go really shitty at your college that you're not entirely prepared for yet because you're still learning how to be a fighter or be a mage.
The entire game is character creation, is what you're saying. because you're just saying you go to classes and then you're like putting stuff on your character sheet, or
No,
am I not understanding?
No,
exactly
it would
what you
be
mean?
like, the way I was going to do it was, I had set it up where, you have your race, it's your race, and then you have your, like, let's say I'm starting to be a bard. And, eventually if it was like a large game, I'd do class stuff, and I haven't figured that out because that's homebrew, but it would be like, you all got sent in detention, and because you did something bad to school property, so now you have to go,
there's no
stop the
detention in
college.
college, right?
Yeah, I know. You got suspension or something, and community
Alcohol,
service.
EDU.
Yeah, and you have to go rid the college forest of trolls before Parents' Weekend.
Dude, I just go drink a bunch of fucking mead in the goddamn Alpha Theta Helm fraternity house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It could be a lot of fun. I just think it could be a lot of fun and wacky, and have elves, high elves, and like really high elves, and just be really excited about it. And just I don't know. I think it's a really fun world, and it could be a cool one shot or maybe a campaign. Figure it out. I
You
don't know.
have to pull it off, Haley. You have to pull it off.
I'm playing a succubi and doppelganger studies major.
That is actually, I listed that under classes of charlatans, so why not? But,
Your character, like, comes out of his dorm and everyone's like, man, what were you up to last night? I heard a lot of, like, fucking noises in there. And you're like, summoning contract. Oh, God. Messy.
no, yeah, it's just, I don't know, I think it'd be a lot of fun, and I made some test characters with a few days ago to see if it would work, and I'm still working out the math of it. But, just the idea of a wacky fantasy breakfast clubby stoner comedy-esque game. I think it could be fun.
Watch Animal House
Animal
and
House?
then Porky's, and then see if you still want to do this.
Andrew Page of the Nerds.
Yeah.
Because I think you're thinking high school, and I think it could work. But if you're going to go college, then you got to be prepared for just some real bad stereotypes that I'm going to play.
Yeah. Oh no, I know. I've planned these around archetypes. I have some really cool ideas, and it could be fun. But I also might do a high school version. Haven't decided. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got. Wanted to share. The end. If you have one-shots you want us to play, you should message us. I'd love to hear some of your ideas, you viewers out there.
All right, guys, what do you say we stop this bullshit? And this has been a lot of bullshit. And start rolling some dice.
This has been a production of Alien Familiar Media. You can find past episodes and more at alienfamiliar.com. You can email us at alienfamiliarmedia@gmail.com. This production is protected under a Creative Commons non-commercial attribution, no derivatives license. Music for this episode is Suburban Outlaw by Forget the Whale and can be found at freemusicarchive.org.